$87,420. And then now, without the use of reserves, we are looking at revenues at $47,195,532. So this shows you where we're at right now, just on the revenue side. We are in a good position as a district on the revenue side, especially with that increase in state aid. After we met with Budget and Finance today, and again, after the break, we're going to meet again as Budget and Finance. Then to discuss, we talked about expenditures today and really having that flexibility. Within this amount, as we move forward, remember that fiscal cliff, that amount of positions that we are now funding within this projection right now would be able to fit moving forward without impact to the district. Sonia?
Yes, questions as it relates to the fund balance. That doesn't have restriction. That covers us in the event of any type of course, we have to open another section of something.
Correct. Yes.
While the roof blows off.
Correct. So this is our immediate planned use of money. We do have our fund balance where it's our unrestricted, where again, that's 4% of the current year's budget. So, you're looking at 4%, you're looking at, roughly right under 1.7 million that we do have in another fund balance that can be used for those items as well. So, it's just not something that we put in as part of the planned budget. It's never our intention to use that 680, but we've had to in the past.
That's good.
Any other questions about the revenues? So, as I had mentioned, we are going to meet after break. This gives us our future considerations. Again, that we'll put out our legal notice saying that we have to advertise 4 times within 7 weeks of the vote. Mrs. Jacobone has already put out the first of the 4. Again, we have spring recess and then come back to, we are going to meet on the 10th as Budget and Finance in a virtual meeting. And then what we would like to do is then call the entire board, those who are available, to come back on the 11th to review some proposals that we have for the budget going forward. That would allow us within this timeline, and this actually jumps about a week earlier than it usually is for us, because we'll come back on Monday the 17th and we'll be voting on the BOCES budget, and if we're able to, we'll adopt, if the district is in agreement, the board will look to adopt our budget for 23-24. If in fact we don't have an agreement to what we want to go out on the 17th, we do have up until the 21st, so it would be the end of that week, that Friday, to approve a budget before we have to submit it to the state.
Right, so what we talked about was we're still finalizing conversations about staffing levels and sectioning for next year. So what the idea would be is that on the 10th, have that finalized enough to talk to Budget and Finance, and then to the full board the following night on the 11th. So that would be a budget workshop, wouldn't be a board meeting, it would be a budget workshop. We would be able to answer any questions people have, get various scenarios, let you give us feedback, and then we can decide, as Mike said, we can decide, are we going to be ready on the 17th to approve the budget or not? If we don't, then we still have a later date to be able to do so.
So in those workshops with Budget Finance, and you're talking about staffing ratios, that also would have some considerations of some potential program expansions?
That's what I'm talking about, yes. That's exactly what it would be. Yeah.
So again, this is where we stand in our budget vote. It will be the 3rd Tuesday in May. So do folks have any other questions, kind of what we put through today?
I think as Budget and Finance review some of that stuff, it'd be important for folks to be reflective on. The governor's been out at least 3 separate times now suggesting the school district shouldn't have any reason to go out with more than a 0%. So I think if districts are looking at that, they will also potentially face some pushback as it relates to the governor's messaging.
We will be sharing what our recommendations are, and I think that you'll find it reasonable.
Any other thoughts? I will say that Budget and Finance got to see spreadsheets today.
Oh, yes.
I was excited to get about it.
It's always the highlight.
Lively.
Best season of the year, budget spreadsheet.
Excellent, thank you for that update. I think we're gonna move on to new business, and if I could please have a motion to approve the warrants.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? You have your budget status report as well as your investment summary for your review. If I could please have a motion to accept the reports from the Committee on Preschool Special Education.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? A motion to approve the reports from the Committee on Special Education.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments from Ms. Moore? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve the disposal of items.
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? A motion to approve the Lego donation.
So moved.
Take your pick.
Are there questions or comments related to the donation?
Thank you for the Legos.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? A motion to approve the class of 1962 donation.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Much appreciated.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? A motion to approve the YWCA transportation request.
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? A motion to approve the amended capital project bid award.
So moved. Second.
Michael, you want to walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, when you, on the February 14th meeting, we had put these bids in front of you. But when the architectural firm had transferred the total dollar amount for the bid award for the roofing portion of the project, we had broken it down into 5 or 6 different sections based upon, we didn't know how many we were going to be able to afford. But come to find out, we can afford all of them because the bids were very favorable. But when they left off one of the bid awards totaling about $600,000. So it was accounted for on the front end, it just wasn't put into the letter, so we wanted to bring it back so you fully understood what that total value was. Doesn't change the bid process or the amount of work that we're able to do.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion to approve personnel.
So move.
Second.
Questions or comments regarding personnel?
Is it really going this time?
Yes,
Okay.
we think.
He
Additional-
said he was.
Allegedly.
Additional questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Fundraising updates.
Yes, I've got a couple of informational items. The first is that fundraising update. We have, both from the high school, the class of 2024, will be conducting a spring dance in April, and the International Club have a couple of outstanding events highlighted by the Krispy Kreme sales in mid-May. Second is we have the annual OCM BOCES meeting. It'll be held Thursday, April 13th, up at Thompson Road in Syracuse. I'll be attending. It starts at 6 o'clock with a dinner followed by a business meeting, and at the business meeting they'll share with you the board candidates for the OCM BOCES board, the OCM budget for 23-24, and then they also do a really nice job every year of highlighting the programs that the students and staff take part in. So if you're interested in going, I would love to have someone to sit with. And if you're interested in going, please let Kelly know by April 5th, and we will reserve your spot. And then once we know who's going, we can make a plan for transportation up to the event.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Yeah.
I didn't grab the, sorry. So this is a portion of our meeting for Community Voices. We have no one signed up for this evening. Are there any community voices wishing to be heard? Okay, we're going to move on to our board committee reports, and Budget and Finance did meet prior to this evening's meeting.
Yeah, we did. We went through the items that we saw in the presentation at the top end of this meeting. We focused on some of the anticipated changes to the legislative budget, mostly in terms of what the school aid amounts were going to be and how the free lunch program might impact our bottom line, as well as the universal pre-K item that we discussed earlier. We want to make sure there's enough sections to accommodate everyone as those applications roll in. So we also discussed some possible increases to the charter school tuition, some increases in special needs placements, contractual increases that are on the horizon, making sure those are all baked into the budget recommendations as they move forward. We also talked about strategic use or funding of reserves, how that plays into the 10-year long-term plan that we've had all along, and how it might be time to take a fresh look at that plan. With the funding going up this year, maybe it's time to put some more money back into reserves, but we want to kick around some more ideas with that as well. We also looked at and discussed some possible changes in the budget around the idea of such things as providing driver ed coming up, which we've mentioned before, providing school supplies possibly to students where that fits in the budget, providing a better mechanism for replacing musical instruments and such on a rotating basis, just making sure we're also doing our due diligence for long-term planning for things like that come up. But overall, once again, kudos to the administration. We're in a very stable place financially, and that's a lot of hard work that goes into that. That's not just by accident. The decades of long-term planning and making sure we're looking ahead, knowing where the funding's going to come from and when it's going to drop off, and making sure there's no surprises there. It really makes the job of the committee fun to look at the spreadsheets, and as easy as it can be, knowing that we're in a good place stability-wise there. So we will meet again on April 10th, trying to look at the budget in totality. Hopefully the state has passed theirs by then, in preparation for the workshop on the 11th. So Aaron, Chuck, anything?
The only thing I would add is when we talk about the school supply piece, we'd like to ask Tom to work with the administrative team to see if we could come back with a feasible plan that we could offer school supplies to all our students. So that, is it possible within the realm of being fiscally minded that we could say to the students on the first day of school, welcome, we're so glad you're here, and here's your list, here's your bag of supplies. And it may not be feasible, but that was something we talked about.
It may not, we want to take a look at it.
If we're in a stable place, is it economically feasible and wise for us to consider that? And so if you could bring that back from the administrative team.
Yeah, one of those areas where the purchase power of bulk orders and even being in consortiums with other districts, perhaps it makes sense, perhaps not, but yeah, let's take a look at it.
Be happy to do it.
I think as you're looking at our reserve circumstances and any recommendations around that, it would probably behoove us to also have our accounting firm take a look at that so that we're consistent with what their recommendation would be as they've reviewed it as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you, team. District committee reports, I believe we're going to hear from instructional leadership.
Yep, we had a meeting today. We discussed at length March 13th, our staff development day. So all the teacher leaders and administrators who came, we looked at what worked that day, what didn't work that well that day, recommendations for future staff development days. I'm gonna gather all that information we put together today, and I'm gonna pass that off to the PLC group, who plans the fine details of those days so we can start building for October 2023, which we're coming right around the corner, not to rush. Then we discussed Briefly, upcoming summer, the summer curriculum development plan, with our emphasis this summer on English language arts, pre-K through 12, world languages, and career tech education. So putting a plan together there, sharing a little bit of budget about that, what the expectations are, process and procedures, and expectations around outcomes for the work in the summer. And that was the end of our meeting. Next meeting will be in April 25th, and we're going to start the planning as far as that committee is concerned regarding the implementation of second step, our SEL curriculum that we plan to pilot next year.
If we had a fair number of our own internal expertise
We
in
did.
professional development, was there an opportunity to meet with the folks that did that, to get some feedback from them?
I followed up with 5 of them, and they want to do it again.
So I think there's some value in that as well, to talk to them about what surprised them in that process,
Yep.
what they may need additionally, but maybe even more beneficial is for them to talk openly about what that experience is like,
Yeah.
because it may inspire somebody else to
Yep.
come forward and share their expertise
Absolutely.
in the future.
We had 23 staff members who did 1 or up to 3 presentations that day for their colleagues. So that's an incredible number. That's a huge risk, you know. Teaching children is one thing, but teaching colleagues and adults can be a little nerve-wracking. And it was an awesome number, and we hope to grow it, and I appreciate the
Yeah, I
feedback.
think it's really a sign of the shift in our culture, because I've sat with the board for a long time. And we really, there seemed to be more aversion to that risk previously. Doors weren't open where our faculty were inviting colleagues in to see some of their best practices, and, to see 23 people say, yeah, I can talk about what's happening here and teach people how to, again, the partnership that we have with our staff and faculty and the administrative team, I think we're really beginning to see the fruits of that, as people are more confident and comfortable and not hiding behind their doors, and best practices are really far stretching now.
Absolutely.
I can tell you, Jeff, it's a big shift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really nice to see that coming to fruition. 'Cause,
Yeah.
It's been a few years back, we started to put some emphasis into that.
Yeah,
There's a lot of talent here, and it's
Right,
nice to
right.
share.
there really is, yeah.
I think we're moving on to board member activities.
Got to enjoy the arts programs of Homer School District, both the all-district concert and cabaret Saturday night. Last Friday, I got to attend an event in Buffalo that was talking around issues around the May 14th shooting at Tops in Buffalo. And part of the evening, or part of the day, was having students from that neighborhood share their experience of that day and then the return back to school. In particular, one young lady who said that she was obviously not doing well at all, but she was trying to hold it together, and nobody was at the school was kind of connecting with her until she lost it and acted out, and then she got in trouble, got detention, and then they began to engage. And so it got me thinking about, all our students are facing so much, and I hope that we don't have a culture that it takes a student acting out before we get them the care that they need. But it was humbling and emotional to hear the presentations from these students about what it was like. That Tops was a place that many of them frequent, and so to hear that experience, but then hear what happened in their school setting as a result of it.
And the other piece to that is, the latest unfortunate, the last one happened today that I didn't hear about, the shooting in Nashville yesterday. It also gives you an opportunity to be proactive in those conversations, because while our children, fortunately, were not involved in that, they see it, they hear about it, and it has an effect on them. And I think the culture that you really want to get to, and there are bits and pieces of it here, I believe, where we're having those conversations ahead of something actually happened, because while everybody in that Buffalo community was certainly affected by it, you didn't have to live there to be affected by it. And so having kids feel comfortable sharing their thoughts on any number of these types of incidences, I think is key.
Yeah.
I had an interesting student form in my own environment where, you know, we put the panel of experts, the students in front of our staff to talk about what's working and what's not working. And as it relates to behavior, we actually had a couple of really articulate students explain that first. We know what the expectations are, so when we're outside the scope of what the expectations are, typically it's a sign that something else is going on. And they say the most impactful or effective staff are those that approach a behavioral circumstance and ask what it is you need, how can I support you?
Yeah.
Versus here's a consequence, you're not in
Right.
class where you're supposed to
Right.
be. And, you know, from the mouths of babes, like, oh, yeah, right? You know this isn't your hallway and you don't belong here, but the staff members that approach them with, you know, what is it that you need, it kind of diffuses that need to be acting out for that. Somebody just asked me, and now I have an opportunity to share it. So that just made me think of that, Aaron, because it was probably just last month where, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right, and you know, some of the staff have that pretty naturally. They understand that, well, you know what the rules are and where you need to be, so you're probably trying to communicate something else.
I can't wait for you to hear from the students through the eyes of Janelle's survey that she did. We have, what, 200 and how many? 230
256.
high school students that have responded, and Janelle's working to develop a presentation that adequately shares the information directly from the students on a lot of the questions, just like that. It's going to be really impactful. She's doing yeoman's work to get it ready, and we'll have it for you next time. But it'll be really, I think, impactful. And then after sharing it with all of you, we're going to share it with our kids, the folks that gave us that information, because there's a lot of, you're finding out a lot of great information. So she's going to have it in a digestible format so that we can share it, but also pull out some of those themes that she's getting from the kids. So I'm looking forward to having all of you here. She shared a little bit of it with me, and I think it's
I
good.
really like the concept of that wraparound too. Here's what we heard from you, right? So
Yeah.
people know that their voices were, hey, that was me, that,
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you. Additional board member activities. Upcoming events, Superintendent?
Yes, March is Music in Our Schools Month. We'll have another shot at it tomorrow night. It's the all-district vocal concert. It starts at 7 o'clock right here at the high school. Hope you're able to come. The all-district instrumental, Aaron spoke to it a little bit, but that was last week, and it was a packed house, and I anticipate the same thing tomorrow night, so get here early to get the best seats. And then spring recess is coming up next week. And then just a reminder, I know we harped on it, but we'll have a budget workshop session on April 11th. That's not on this because we just established that earlier tonight. But then our first meeting after that will be Monday the 17th because we have to vote on our BOCES administrative budget. That's what I have.
Thank you, Superintendent. If I could please have a
So
motion
moved.
to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you, everybody.
Send out 30 reminders of that weird Monday meeting.
I will,
that
I will.
end up coming on the wrong
Yeah,
day.
yeah. I might even send a bus around just to pick everybody up with all those reminders. Oh, and Josh,